I'm Lauren Todorovic, and today we're joined by the Minister for Aged Care, Hon Ken Wyatt. Thank you for your time today, Minister.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. It's great to sort of hear your contribution today. People responded well.
You organised a think tank event to bring together industry leaders to look at innovation and a new way of thinking. What was your thought around that, and how will this impact or improve the industry by having such an event?
There were a couple of reasons for today. One was to bring together people outside of who we normally meet with within the aged care sector. People who are doing innovative work locally, but within their communities. And as we heard today, all of them are committed to improving the life choices that individuals have as they age. But then none of them were, in all of what they said, none of them were bound by the Act or by the service model. What they saw was the possibilities and potential. It wasn't just technology. When I hear Anita talk about her aged care facilities now being clusters of houses, so that people still get that sense that they're living at home and not within a corridor structure. And then young Ben at the end, who said over a barbecue having a drink, his mate telling him of a challenge he's got, so he's now helped create, I think it's an app, but certainly using technology to engage and connect people with services and with people who can help them with their health challenges.
In your line of work, and I understand that you're often out on the road meeting with consumers, meeting with operators, what do you see, and from your learnings, some of the challenges that seniors face when adopting or adapting to new technologies?
Look, I think a fear more than anything else. Even when I worked as a director in education, I took leave from the workplace for 12 months. I'd never had to use my own computer. All I did was open messages, emails, save files, but nothing else, because I had a secretary. And I had to learn to use a computer, the suite of programs in it, how it could best serve me. And that took some time because I had not grown up with computers. And it's the same as the people in aged care. They're out of the generation before me, but they're equally from my generation as well. And so we've got to relearn how to engage with new technology, advancing technology. And I suppose one of the worst things for me is I love the games that you can now download and kill off half an hour and just take your mind off your work. But I also like it because it's versatile. I can engage with anybody anywhere around the country now, or even overseas. And I love the fact of Skyping. You can sit and have a conversation with somebody and see them. And I think that is an evolving way of thinking now that a lot of older Australians are doing.
You mentioned you attended the G20 summit in Berlin and had the pleasure of being able to visit some of the aged care facilities. What were some of the standouts, and what can aged care operators here in Australia learn?
It was in Berlin at the G20 Health Ministers Forum. I was representing Australia, so I had a chance for a number of side meetings. But the thing that struck me in Berlin, we went to a community neighbourhood centre. It wasn't called aged, it was called a community neighbourhood centre because there were people living in residence, so residential aged care. There were daytime visitors, people who were ageing at home but would come in there to have social interactions. The other strength that I loved was they had a school next door, so there was interaction between the children there and people within that facility. And they have a series of activities. They had the drumming, so when I went in, they said to me, you can't come in here unless you sit down and drum, and they said also your staff have to be on drums. And we had a great half-hour session just beating drums to our heart's content. But what I liked was I was watching the interaction between the woman who was doing the facilitating and calling out what she wanted us to beat, and every senior German who was in that group, the eye contact, the understanding they had with her, but her encouragement of people who weren't sure of how to beat the drums. And it was fun. I liked that element, and the other element that I really liked was if people had a favourite recipe that they wanted to cook, there was a kitchen. They had to tell the manager what the ingredients they needed, and then they would cook the dish and share it with others in there. So they had a kitchen that was for people who lived there in residential care, but the second kitchen was the open kitchen, and people living in residential care could go and have one of the meals if it was their favourite meal there.
So if we bring it home now, one of the big things that our community often raise with us is around the accessibility to home care packages and the information around how they can spend their package. Things like the fee prices and what an individual service offers are often very challenging for people to compare one or the other alongside each other. What is the government doing around this to try and improve this system for consumers?
What we do is we continually review issues as they're raised, and I get plenty of letters across my desk on this issue. But what I'm finding is that once people or families understand the process, then they're able to navigate. We're still going to look at making the pathway into the portal easier, but that's going to take some time. But we're learning from the fact that you've got a system that's only 2 years old. It's new, and we've made continual changes as they're raised with us. The the helplines that we have are extremely handy for those who make the calls. Often, one of the challenges is not knowing who the providers are. And in the past, what you didn't know was which provider had the number of packages that were relevant to you. And so people had to ring around. Now the money goes to the individual. So the provider has to identify and understand who are likely clients of theirs from within their catchment area or within their region. But I think that choice has also forced a rethink in the way that we deliver aged care, certainly from the providers. There are support groups that are now coming to the fore that are brokering for older Australians within their areas. There's certainly, we heard around the table today, models of workforce and support delivery. So innovation is great in this construct because there are people who will make themselves knowledgeable of all the nuances within the platform, but will then make themselves available as advocates. But there's people who also, through their generosity, are going to find those mistakes, and then provide the department with what they're finding as barriers, and then for us to work on them and streamline those.
Thank you for your time today, Minister, and I appreciate the invitation to join the think tank today.
No, it's good seeing you again. As I said, I compliment you on what you're doing as well.
I'm Lauren Todorovich for Hello Care News.